For such a time as this, finding purpose in the story of Esther. Have you ever wondered whether God can still use you in this season of your life? Maybe you feel overlooked, uncertain, or unsure of what you still have to offer. The story of Esther reminds us that even when God seems hidden, his hand is still at work, and he often places his people exactly where they need to be for his purposes. Placed for a purpose. There are 3 major quotes from the book of Esther that come to my mind. The first 2 are familiar to many people, but the third may be the most important for anyone who wonders whether their life still has purpose. Esther's story reminds us that we are still seen by God, still valuable, and still able to be used by him. The first quote, and probably the most well-known, comes during a moment of crisis. The king had been convinced by the evil Haman to issue a decree that would destroy, kill, and annihilate all the Jews, young and old, women and children, and plunder their possessions. Esther, a Jewish woman whose heritage had been kept secret, had previously been promoted to queen in the king's court. When Mordecai, Esther's cousin who had raised her, learned of the decree, he sent word to Esther and urged her to act. His famous question still speaks to us today. Who knows whether you have come to the kingdom for such a time as this? Esther 4:14. Esther did not fully understand why she had been placed in her position, but God was preparing her for a moment that mattered. In the same way, you may not know why you are in a unique place at a unique point in time, but it may be that God has plans to use you right where you are. Courage to obey. The next quote pierces my heart because it reveals such bravery. After Esther agreed to approach the king, she knew she would be risking her own life. Coming before the king without being summoned was against the law, and the consequences could have been severe. Yet Esther responded with courageous surrender. I will go to the king, which is against the law. And if I perish, I perish. Most of us may never face the possibility of losing our lives for taking a step of faith, but we do know what it feels like to be afraid, to speak up, to share the gospel, to ask someone if they need prayer, to offer help in the name of the Lord, or to obey when the assignment feels uncomfortable. Esther reminds us that courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is obedience in the presence of fear. If God asks you to take a step, he will be with you and provide the way. The privilege of participation. Lastly, back in Esther 4:14, we sometimes skip over the first part of Mordecai's statement, for if you remain completely silent at this time, relief and deliverance will arise for the Jews from another place. Those words are both sobering and encouraging. God's purpose would be fulfilled, but Esther was being invited to participate in what he was doing. Mordecai's words remind us that God is never limited by our obedience, but we may miss the blessing of being part of his work. That is a powerful truth. God does not need us in order to accomplish his plans, yet in his grace, he invites us to join him. What a privilege it is to participate in the work of God. When you step out in faith, you have the privilege and honor of participating in something eternal. Your obedience may encourage someone, strengthen someone, point someone to Christ, or remind someone that they are not alone. And as God works through you, he will also work in you. Personal application. Esther's story invites us to pause and ask honest questions. Where has God placed me? What opportunities has he put before me? Is there a conversation I need to have, a step I need to take, or a fear I need to surrender? Sometimes our such a time as this moment does not look dramatic from the outside. It may look like praying with a friend, serving quietly, speaking truth with love, encouraging someone who feels forgotten, or saying yes when obedience feels costly. You may not see the full picture right now, but God does. He sees your season, your gifts, your limitations, and your willingness. Like Esther, you may discover that the place you are standing is not an accident. It may be an assignment. Step into the story. If the book of Esther has stirred your heart, I invite you to go deeper. My Bible study guide on Esther is designed to help you explore the courage, faith, timing, and providence woven throughout this powerful story. Together, we will look at how God works behind the scenes and how He calls ordinary people to step forward with extraordinary trust. You are still seen by God. You are still valuable, and you may be exactly where you are for such a time as this.